This video is going to look at how you might structure the evaluation section of your chemistry IA. And to do it, we're going to break this into two subsections. The first is the conclusion, and the second is the evaluation. Let's first take a look at the conclusion subsection. We'll break this down into 5 parts. The first one, simply restating your research question. This is an important start point because everything in the conclusion section is attempting to describe and justify a response to the research question. Secondly, you need to outline what you can conclude from your data. And this might involve describing specific data points or perhaps general trends or patterns that your data has shown. Thirdly, you'll need to justify your conclusion using scientific knowledge that can be used to help explain it. In order to do this properly, you'll need to reference scientific literature to support your answers. The fourth part is to consider how accurate your data is. If your experiment has calculated some values that can be compared to scientific literature, then you'll want to calculate a percentage error for those values. If your process data is more interested in trends or patterns, then instead of calculating specific percentage errors, you might want to compare your trends to trends found in scientific literature. And sometimes you might be able to do both of these things. Finally, you'll want to make a comparison between the uncertainties in your final values with your error consideration. If your percentage uncertainties are greater than your percentage error values, you probably have fairly minimal sources of error in your methodology. This is because the lack of precision in your measurement equipment can more than explain for the percentage error in the data that you've produced. Conversely, if your percentage uncertainty values are much smaller than the total percentage error, that suggests that you probably have significant sources of error in your methodology that need to be explained in the evaluation part. Let's now look at the evaluation subsection. This subsection can be broken down into 3 parts. First of all is a consideration of the strengths of your investigation. This might require you to consider how you achieved a low percentage error. You could also consider how using precise equipment led to small percentage uncertainties in measurements. You might consider some useful adaptations that you made to an existing procedure, or how you were successfully able to control any controlled variables. The second part of the evaluation subsection will be to consider weaknesses. Firstly, you might consider any limitations in your data. For example, perhaps your data is only valid in certain conditions or over a specific range. You will then need to consider sources of error that were weaknesses in your investigation. And it's often useful to present this in a table to give a clear structure. The column headings in your table might be the source of error, a discussion of how this source of error may have impacted your results, and then a consideration of realistic ways that you could minimize or eliminate this source of error in future experiments. Suggestions like completing your experiment in a vacuum or at 700 degrees Celsius are likely to be considered as unrealistic. The final part of your evaluation section will be to consider the extension of your investigation. In this short section, you might consider if this investigation has raised other possible research questions that are related to it. You might consider how you would extend the range of data. Or perhaps you could apply the same research question to other areas of focus. This will be a short section. You just need to make sure that they are tied, or any suggestions are tied, to the research question of your investigation. And that brings to an end the key parts of a good evaluation section in a chemistry IA. As a quick summary, your evaluation section can be broken into two subsections, the conclusion and the evaluation, and in each of those you'll find a number of smaller parts in order to score well in this part of the IA. Hopefully this video is of some help.